Michael, 74, began his day just like any other, slipping into his morning routine without a second thought. But this time, things took a terrifying turn. His heart pounded wildly, his legs gave out, and before he knew it, he was sprawled out on the bathroom floor. By the time his wife found him, his face was pale, his breathing shallow. It wasn't what he did that put his life in danger. It was how he did it and when he chose to do it. Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony, a men's health specialist with over 3 decades of experience working with men over 60. Today, I'm going to expose 4 common yet dangerous mistakes that older men unknowingly make when relieving themselves in the morning. Mistakes that can silently damage your heart, nerves, and overall health. And here's the kicker. At the end of this video, I'm going to reveal the exact time when your body's most vulnerable and when it's safest to relieve yourself without risking your health. This is the kind of insight that could literally save your life. So don't miss it. If you find this information eye-opening, do me a favor. Hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss crucial health tips for men over 60. And before we dive in, grab a cup of hot coffee or tea, get comfortable, and settle in. Because today we're going deep into a topic most men don't talk about, but definitely need to hear. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever noticed how your body feels after your morning routine? Type, "I'm paying attention" in the comments below if you're ready to learn the truth about what your body's really telling you. All right, ready? Let's get started. Mistake 1. Masturbating on an empty stomach and while dehydrated in the morning. Picture a typical morning. Robert, 71, wakes up before the sun rises. The room is still chilly. The house is silent. He gets up, hasn't eaten anything, hasn't had a drop of water. His body is still fatigued from the long night's sleep, but he decides to relieve himself, a habit he's had for years. A moment that seems harmless just to start the day. But for a man over 60, what happens next is far from harmless. His heart races, his breathing quickens, his vision blurs, and just minutes later, he collapses to the bathroom floor. When the paramedics arrive, he's still conscious but completely drained. He thinks he just had a panic attack, but the reality is far more alarming. It was a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, a warning sign of a potential stroke. You see, the act itself isn't the problem. It's how he did it and the time he chose. After 60, the body no longer recovers as quickly as it used to. During the night, the body loses water quietly. Blood sugar levels drop. Blood circulation slows down. The body is like a car running on empty, needing time to refuel. But instead of giving it a bit of fuel, a glass of water, a small snack, a few stretches, Robert pushed his body into a high-energy demand situation when it wasn't ready. When you stimulate yourself in this state, the cardiovascular system has to work twice as hard to pump blood rapidly to the pelvic area, where blood is needed to maintain arousal. But what happens when there isn't enough blood to supply both the brain and the heart simultaneously? The heart rate suddenly spikes. Blood vessels constrict. Blood gets pulled to the pelvic area, leaving the brain and heart deprived of oxygen. For a young man, the body can quickly adjust and recover. But for those over 60 with stiffening arteries, a less resilient heart, and more sensitive nerves, the consequences can be far more severe. Remember the story of Michael, a patient I treated years ago. He was a 68-year-old man who had always been healthy. That morning, after relieving himself without eating breakfast or drinking water, he felt dizzy and lost his balance. He collapsed to the floor, hitting his head hard against the sink. He thought it was just a panic attack, but in reality, it was a transient ischemic attack, a warning sign that his circulatory system was in serious trouble. And that's not an isolated case. I've seen many older men come into my office feeling weak and exhausted after their morning self-relief sessions without properly preparing their bodies. A brief headache, a sense of dizziness, a racing heart, all signs that the body is crying out for help. The sad truth is that most men never consider that a seemingly harmless moment of self-relief could harm their health. They don't realize that when they stimulate themselves while dehydrated and on an empty stomach, they're placing an invisible strain on their cardiovascular system, their nerves, and their entire circulatory network. So what's the solution? It's simpler than you think. Before you decide to relieve yourself, drink a glass of warm water to replenish the fluids lost overnight. Eat a small piece of bread or some fruit to stabilize your blood sugar. And spend a few minutes doing some gentle stretches to activate your circulation. This not only prepares your body more effectively, but also protects your heart, brain, and nervous system from sudden shocks. It's about respecting the body that has carried you through all these years. It's unfortunate that no one told us this sooner. Most men never connect these seemingly small factors, but if you don't want to end up like Robert or Michael, start with these simple changes. If this story made you reconsider your morning routine, leave a comment below. Just type, "I understand," to let me know that you're listening and ready to change. But don't leave just yet. The next mistake I'm about to reveal is far more dangerous. It's something millions of men still do every morning with their phone. And you wouldn't believe how that one act is quietly rewiring your brain. If you're still here, it means you're ready to uncover the truth. So let's dive into the next mistake right now. Mistake 2, using pornography as morning stimulation. Imagine this. It's early morning, and Thomas, 66, has just opened his eyes. Before getting out of bed, his hand reaches for the phone on the nightstand, not to check the news or browse family photos, but to scroll through adult videos, a habit he's maintained for years. He once told me, "Doc, it's just a way to start my day. It makes me feel alive." But in reality, what he didn't realize was that every time he watched explicit content in the morning, he was unknowingly rewiring his brain, little by little, day by day. At 60, your brain is no longer as resilient as it once was. The dopamine system, the part of the brain responsible for pleasure and motivation, becomes more sensitive, more easily overstimulated, and harder to recover. When you repeatedly flood your brain with high-intensity pornographic images, especially in the morning when the brain is still adjusting after a long night's sleep, you're forcing it to process a level of stimulation it wasn't designed to handle. At first, everything seems harmless, a little thrill to start the day. But what happens when this habit repeats every single morning? Dopamine floods the brain, making everyday moments, a warm hug, a gentle kiss, feel dull and bland. The excitement from intense videos begins to overshadow all other sensations. And then you start to notice that real life feels flat and lifeless. I once treated a 70-year-old man. He told me that despite still loving his wife, he no longer felt the same arousal when she touched him. Instead, he needed more intense, shocking imagery to feel anything. His brain had been rewired to only respond to extreme, sudden stimuli, the kind of stimuli that real life could never replicate. And that's when loneliness begins to seep into intimate moments. Men like Thomas or my patient never intended to lose their sense of closeness with their partners. But when the brain gets used to high-intensity stimuli from pornography, real-life intimacy becomes dull, unable to evoke the same thrill. This habit doesn't just rob you of genuine connection, it quietly steals away your confidence. Gradually, little by little, it erodes a man's interest in his wife, his desire for soft, loving gestures. Instead, he craves intense, fast-paced, and aggressive imagery. And the worst part? Most men don't even realize it. They think they're still in control, but in reality, they're slowly becoming slaves to those images. It's a silent cycle of addiction, stripping away the ability to experience real intimacy, piece by piece. If your morning starts with pornographic images, ask yourself, what are you feeding your brain the moment you wake up? What would happen if, instead of intense, explicit scenes, you chose a calm morning, deep breaths, gentle stretches, and simply being present? Replace those images with a few minutes of meditation, a simple breathing exercise. Give your brain a chance to wake up, relax, and soak in the peace. Don't let intense imagery turn your morning into a dopamine race, a race where the thrill only lasts for a few fleeting moments before fading away. If you feel these words are speaking to you, leave a comment below. Type, "I choose clarity," to affirm that you're listening and ready to change. But don't go anywhere yet. The next mistake I'm about to reveal has nothing to do with what you're watching. It's about how you're doing it, your posture, your position, and what's silently happening inside your body every morning. And this mistake could be quietly paralyzing your blood vessels. If you're still here, keep listening. The next mistake could change the way you view your body forever. Mistake 3. Masturbating in a tense or hunched sitting position. Imagine a 75-year-old man, Samuel, a man who still lives independently, strong and resilient. Every morning he wakes up, sits on the edge of the bed, leans forward and engages in a habit he's repeated for decades. Quick, thoughtless, just a way to release, to feel alive. But lately he started to notice something isn't right. Each time he finishes, he feels a slight numbness in his lower body. The sensation isn't as intense as it used to be. It takes him longer to reach climax. And when he asked me about it, he just sighed and said, "It's not the same anymore, Doc." What Samuel doesn't realize is that every time he sits on the edge of the bed, leans forward and tenses his pelvic area, he's unknowingly compressing vital blood vessels and nerves in the pelvic region. The very vessels and nerves responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients to the genitals, controlling sensation, erections, and even bladder function. When you sit hunched over with your thighs pressed tightly together, you're applying constant pressure to the pudendal nerve and the pelvic arteries. At first, you may only feel a slight discomfort, but over time, this compression can lead to gradual numbness, reduced sensation, diminished pleasure, prolonged time to climax, and sometimes the unsettling feeling that you're no longer fully connected to your own body. I once treated a 74-year-old man, a strong, proud, independent man. He told me that every morning he'd sit on the edge of the bed, lean forward, clench his thighs, hold his breath, and engage in this habit. He did it every single day, never changing his position, never giving it a second thought, just a routine. When I asked how he felt afterward, he fell silent. Finally, he said, "Lately, I don't feel the same. Everything feels numb, and it takes so long to reach climax." Here's the problem. When you sit hunched over and clench your body, you're effectively cutting off blood flow to your genitals. Blood can't circulate freely, nerves are pinched. The entire genital area is deprived of the oxygen and nutrients it needs to maintain sensation and function. For a younger man, the body can quickly recover from such compression. But after 60, the circulatory and nervous systems can no longer bounce back as easily. The damage from these incorrect postures accumulates silently, little by little. Now imagine this. Every morning, you sit hunched over, tightening your body. Blood flow is restricted, nerves are compressed. Each time a bit of sensation is lost, a bit of pleasure fades, and eventually you may feel nothing at all. So what's the solution? You don't need to abandon your routine. You just need to change how you do it. Instead of sitting hunched over, try lying on your back. Place a small pillow under your hips to elevate the pelvic area. This opens up space, allows blood to circulate more freely, and reduces pressure on the pudendal nerve. I suggested this small change to Samuel. After a few weeks, he came back to my office and said, "Things feel different. I can feel pleasure again. The numbness is gone." Sometimes just one small adjustment can make all the difference. But sadly, most men never hear about this. No one tells them that posture matters more than they think. If you're still reading this and feel like this is speaking to you, leave a comment below. Type "I will change" as a reminder to yourself that sometimes the smallest shifts can have the biggest impact. But don't go anywhere yet. The next mistake I'm about to share isn't about posture, and it isn't about timing. It's about the thoughts that are silently eroding your mental and physical health each time you relieve yourself. It's a mistake I've seen in thousands of older men, and it has a more destructive impact than any position ever could. If you're ready to hear the truth, keep listening, because what I'm about to reveal could change your life forever. Mistake 4. Guilt and shame. After masturbation. Imagine this. It's early morning. Richard, 72, wakes up after another long, lonely night. The room is silent, except for the ticking clock. He turns to the empty side of the bed and realizes no one is there. A wave of emptiness washes over him. He tries to fill that void, and then he decides to relieve himself. But as soon as his breathing returns to normal, another feeling takes over. Heavy, guilty. A voice echoes in his mind. "I shouldn't have done that. At my age, isn't this shameful?" Richard isn't the only one who experiences this. I've met hundreds of older men who carry that invisible weight. Some grew up in strict families where any act related to sexuality was labeled as wrong or dirty. Others were haunted by the critical voices of loved ones in society, gradually associating guilt with self-relief. But here's what few people realize. Guilt doesn't just harm your mind. It deeply affects your body too. When you tell yourself you're bad, weak, or disgusting for seeking a bit of pleasure, your body responds. The nervous system switches to stress mode. And what happens when that stress lingers? Cortisol, the stress hormone, skyrockets. And if you start your morning with a wave of guilt, cortisol floods your body. Not only does this ruin your mood, but it also disrupts your endocrine system. When cortisol rises, testosterone, the crucial hormone for male health, drops. This doesn't just reduce sexual desire, it also leaves you feeling weak, tired, and less confident. That's why I've treated so many men who come into my office saying, "I feel exhausted all day. I've lost interest in my wife," or "I don't feel like myself anymore." And then, when I ask them what happens in the morning, they admit that after relieving themselves, they're overwhelmed by guilt. Just like Richard, they can't silence that voice in their head. And this cycle keeps repeating, day after day, week after week, year after year. But here's what I want you to remember. Your body listens to every thought you have. If you keep telling yourself that you're weak, disgusting, or unworthy, your body will react by tightening muscles, raising cortisol, lowering testosterone, and creating an endless cycle of tension. But what if you change your mindset? What if, instead of feeling ashamed, you allowed yourself to enjoy that moment calmly and gently? What if you viewed it as an act of self-care rather than a shameful secret? One of my patients, Mark, 65, came to me with a sad expression. He said he felt like a monster for still having sexual desires at his age. Every time he relieved himself, he felt like a failure. But I told him, "Mark, you're not a failure. Your body is simply seeking a little connection, a little release, and that's perfectly natural." I asked him to try changing his perspective. Instead of seeing it as a shameful act, view it as a moment of self-care. Instead of clenching his muscles in guilt, I told him to relax, breathe deeply, and simply be present in the moment. After a few weeks, he returned with a smile. "Everything's different now," he said. "I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel like I got my freedom back." The issue isn't the act itself. The issue is how you perceive it. You deserve peace, even in your most private moments. You don't have to choose between guilt and pleasure. You can have both, safely, healthily, and without the heavy burden of shame. And if you're wondering when the best time to do this without raising stress and cortisol levels is, stay tuned. I'll share the ideal time right after this. A time when your body and mind are in harmony, creating a moment of true relaxation, connection, and healing. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below. Just type "I choose peace" to affirm that you're ready to change. But don't go anywhere yet. That timing, the timing I'm about to reveal, could be the key to reclaiming your sense of calm and self-acceptance in those private moments. And it might just change the way you see yourself forever. Mistake 5, reclaiming your power. The hidden hour that restores vitality and connection. Imagine Leonard, 64 years old. He sits alone in his quiet living room, the setting sun casting a warm, golden glow across the room. The day is almost over, but Leonard feels like he's only half awake. Every morning he follows the same routine, waking up, sitting on the edge of the bed, and going through the motions of relieving himself. But lately it's felt more like a chore than a moment of pleasure. For years he's done it without thinking, but now it's different. The sensations are dull. The excitement is gone. The connection with his body feels lost. One evening, after a long, exhausting day, Leonard decides to try something different. Instead of forcing himself through another dull, mindless morning session, he waits. He takes a warm shower, sips a glass of water, and lets his body relax. The clock strikes 6 p.m., the hidden hour. The house is quiet, his mind is calm, and his body is finally at ease. For the first time in years, Leonard takes his time. He lets each breath flow slowly. He closes his eyes and simply feels, without rushing. without judgment. And for the first time, he feels truly alive. You see, the time from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is more than just another hour on the clock. It's a window of opportunity. Your body is finally ready. After a full day of staying hydrated, eating well, and moving around, your blood circulation is at its peak. This means blood flows freely to the pelvic area, creating stronger, more satisfying sensations. Testosterone, the hormone that fuels desire and heightens sensation, naturally rises in the late afternoon and early evening. This is when your body is primed for connection, not just release. Cortisol levels drop. The stress hormone, cortisol, is highest in the morning, making it a terrible time for self-relief. But by late afternoon, it drops significantly, allowing your mind and body to truly relax. Leonard didn't just stumble upon a random time. He unknowingly unlocked the body's natural rhythm, a time when pleasure, relaxation, and connection merge seamlessly. As he slowed down and focused on each sensation, he felt parts of his body he hadn't truly connected with in years. The tingling in his fingertips, the warmth spreading through his chest, all signs that blood was flowing freely, nerves were firing, and his senses were reawakening. Unlike the rushed, mindless sessions in the morning, Leonard found that in the hidden hour, everything felt deeper, more intense. He could feel every pulse, every contraction, every wave of pleasure, without feeling pressured or rushed. For the first time, Leonard allowed himself to truly let go. He didn't feel guilty. He didn't feel empty. Instead, he felt whole, like he'd finally reconnected with the man he used to be. Before you brush this off as just another routine change, consider this. Morning is actually the worst time to engage in self-relief. Your body is dehydrated after hours of sleep. Blood flow is sluggish, and your heart has to work twice as hard to keep up. Your testosterone levels may be high, but cortisol is even higher, making it difficult to relax and enjoy the moment fully. Your mind is still adjusting after a long sleep, so you're more prone to feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or disconnected. Think about it. Would you run a marathon without hydrating, stretching, or preparing your body? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what so many men do every morning without realizing it. 2 weeks later, Leonard walks into my office. There's a new energy in his step, a glow in his eyes. He sits down and says, "Doc, I feel like myself again." I ask him what changed, and he smiles. "It was so simple," he says. "Instead of rushing through it in the morning, I waited until the evening. Just like you said, it's like I finally woke up. Everything feels more intense, more real, more alive. And that's the power of the hidden hour. It's not just about finding a time that works. It's about reclaiming a sense of power over your own body. It's about choosing moments of true connection rather than mindless habits that leave you feeling empty and drained." If Leonard's story resonated with you, it's time to take action. Tonight, instead of rushing through the motions in the morning, try waiting until the hidden hour. Take a warm shower to relax your muscles and stimulate blood flow. Drink a glass of water to rehydrate and replenish lost fluids. Set the mood, dim the lights, put on calming music, and focus on each breath, each sensation. Move slowly, take your time. Let your mind and body connect fully, and if you're ready to reclaim your power, leave a comment below. Type, "I choose my power," to remind yourself that your body still deserves pleasure, connection, and care, no matter your age. But don't go anywhere yet, because the next mistake I'm about to reveal is something far more common and far more dangerous. It's a simple act that millions of men do every morning without realizing the silent damage it's causing to their circulation, their nerves, and their confidence. If you think you know your body well, think again. What I'm about to share next might completely change the way you see your morning routine. Stay with me. You don't want to miss this. Right now, you might be seeing your morning routine in a completely different light. And if that's the case, I want you to remember this. You're not alone. You're not the only man over 60 feeling like your body is changing, like your mornings are no longer what they used to be. For over 3 decades, I've listened to men just like you, strong, resilient, independent, carrying silent worries they're too proud or too ashamed to talk about. And here's what I've learned. No matter how many years pass, The desire to feel alive, connected, and in control never goes away. It just gets quieter, more complicated, and more easily ignored. Today we uncovered 4 dangerous mistakes that many men make every single morning without even realizing it. Seemingly harmless habits like skipping that glass of water, scrolling through intense images, sitting hunched over, or drowning in guilt. All of these tiny actions quietly chip away at your health, disrupting your hormones, constricting your blood flow, and distancing you from your own body. You might be thinking, it's just a routine. It's no big deal. But the reality is, as you age, every small action adds up, and each choice you make can either protect your health or quietly tear it apart. But don't let that thought scare you. Let it wake you up. Let it remind you that your body is still capable of feeling alive, strong, and connected, if you learn to listen to it, respect it, and care for it in the right way. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't have to give up pleasure. You don't have to feel guilty, but you do have to make a choice. Choose to approach each moment with more intention, more awareness, and more respect for the body that's carried you through so many years. And that's why I shared the ideal time for self-relief, from late afternoon to early evening, when your body is naturally more relaxed, your heart is steady, and your hormones are in perfect balance. If you've ever asked yourself, why don't I feel the same anymore? Now you know. Now you have the tools to change. You can take back control. You can make small, simple adjustments that bring life, vitality, and connection back to every moment. I hope today's insights have brought you clarity, hope, and the confidence to reconnect with yourself, because you deserve it. You're still a man with needs, desires, and the right to feel joy, no matter your age. And if this message has touched something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who might need to hear it too, because we're all aging, but we don't have to do it alone. Now, if this video helped you understand your body a little better, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next crucial insight. And before you go, let me ask you something. How has your morning routine changed over the years? Leave a comment below and type, "I'm still learning," to remind yourself that growth doesn't stop with age. It only becomes more meaningful. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Remember, you deserve to wake up every day feeling strong, confident, and full of life. Stay connected, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video.